No more gas for Europe. It looks like the worst case scenario may be about to play out. What's up, guys? I'm Nobody Special, and this morning, this article hit the tape right here. Russia's Gazprom declares force majeure on some gas supplies to Europe. And we've been talking about this for a while on this channel, that the Nord Stream 1 pipeline went down for maintenance on July 11th, and it's supposed to come back on July 21st. And there's been some questions about whether or not the Russians would seize on this opportunity to just say, you know what, we're going to leave the gas shut off. And it's starting to look like that may be exactly what's going on. Reading a little bit from this article, Russia's Gazprom has declared force majeure on gas supplies to Europe to at least one major customer, according to a letter from Gazprom that will add to European fears on fuel shortages. Now, for whatever reason, this article and a lot of the other articles I've seen has not mentioned the name of that supplier. It's pretty obvious that we're talking about German gas giant Uniper right now. For whatever reason, the press keeps leaving that detail out. I haven't been able to find any reason why, any confirmation one way or another, but it's pretty obviously Uniper that they're talking about right now. Dated July 14th and seen by Reuters on Monday, the legal force of the letter is to shield Gazprom from compensation payments for disrupted supplies, but risks escalating tensions between Russia and the West over the invasion of Ukraine that Moscow called a special military operation. Yes, we wouldn't want to escalate those tensions. It's not like every single decision being made by leadership on both sides of this CF has been to escalate tensions. No, let's not escalate now. The letter said Gazprom, which has a monopoly on Russian gas exports by pipeline, could not fulfill its supply obligations because of extraordinary circumstances. It said the force majeure clause invoked to lift the business from contractual obligations because of factors beyond its control was retroactively effective from deliveries starting June 14th. A trading source asking not to be identified because of sensitivity of the issue said the letter concerned supplies through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, a major supply route to Germany and beyond. Now, it's interesting that they mentioned June 14th in the letter. You can see here to my left that right around that time is when gas flows through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline were dramatically cut down to about 40%. And that was over a dispute between Gazprom and Siemens over a gas turbine that was over in Canada being repaired. And the Canadians did not want to release that turbine back to Siemens so that Siemens could then send it back to Gazprom because of the sanctions. So flows through the Nord Stream pipeline were already way down right before a few days ago when the flows went to zero when the pipeline went down for maintenance. Now, I'll add that since then, Canada has released that turbine and it's on its way back to Germany right now, but that turbine is not supposed to arrive until the 24th, and even then it's got to go from Germany to Russia, and then the Russians would have to install it. Now, this pipeline outage is supposed to be over on the 21st, so that turbine will definitely not make it back in time to finish this outage. So it's possible that this force majeure is referring to this gas turbine from Siemens. Whether or not this turbine is really the cause of the force majeure and really the cause of the pipeline being shut down, or is it just political maneuvering, that's anybody's guess. But regardless of what's at play here, it looks like that July 21st date to restore flow through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline is now out the door. And as the Europeans were fearing, the Russians will not be turning the gas back on. And unfortunately, that is very bad news for German gas giant Uniper, who is already on the brink of collapse. Check this out from Javier Blas, who is the head of commodities over at Bloomberg, and he says German utility Uniper is truly running out of time. The company just said it has fully drawn its €2 billion credit facility with German state-owned KfW Bank. That's on top of the €8 billion it's already drawn from a credit line from its parent company. So what they're talking about here, since June 14th, when the flow through the pipeline was cut, Uniper has already sold the gas that was supposed to be delivered through that pipeline. They sell the gas to the smaller German utilities. In other words, Uniper has been caught with their pants down, short natural gas. Now they have to go into the spot market to buy that gas to replace what they've already sold. And in just a month, they burned through €10 billion worth of credit to do that. Here's what that looks like. This is ICE Dutch TTF natural gas futures. And you can see right here, June 14th, big step change upward in natural gas prices as Uniper went onto the spot market to buy that gas that they had already sold to deliver to its customers. And that trend continues up, 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 right up until a couple of days ago. You see those last few red candles. That's when Uniper ran out of money and started burning some of the natural gas that they had in storage instead of buying it on the spot market. So Uniper can no longer afford to go onto the spot market and buy that gas because they've burned up all their credit, so they're burning their reserves, kind of like the United States is doing with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and its oil stockpile. But unfortunately, that only lasts for so long because Europe needs to be storing its natural gas right now. They need to be building inventory, not burning inventory, because this is their low period. This is when they don't have as much demand for gas. It's the winter when they really need that natural gas. Looking at this chart, this is what natural gas inventory levels typically do over the course of the year. This gray shaded area, that's the 5-year range of what natural gas inventory levels have done from January through December from 2016 through 2021. And then that blue line, that's 2022 inventory. Now, this chart right now doesn't really convey a lot of urgency, but I want to clarify a couple of things. See, even though we're about mid-band here, right in the middle of the region where the inventory levels would typically be, with the gas not flowing through Nord Stream 1 right now, this blue line is going to stop going up. And if Uniper has to keep tapping its reserves because it doesn't have enough money to source the gas on the spot market, this blue line is going to start ticking down. Well, they have until about the end of September to get the storage levels up to about 80%, which is what they typically need to get through winter. Now you can see all the way to the left, last winter, they were actually pretty low in their storage levels because the Russians started to decline the flow. The only reason Europe didn't run out of gas last winter was because we had a very mild season. Temperatures didn't get nearly as cold as they historically have. And I would also add that despite everything that happened last winter, there was still a lot of gas flow flowing through Nord Stream 1. If the Russians don't turn Nord Stream 1 back online, they're not going to have that gas flow. So without Nord Stream 1, the decline in inventory this winter is going to be much more rapid than it's been in prior years when we had billions of cubic feet of natural gas still flowing through the pipelines. And looking at this chart here, this is the daily inventory build or draw. And you can see since July 11th, when the Nord Stream 1 went down for maintenance, they actually have just barely been adding to inventory. You even got a couple of negative days here where the inventory was drawn down. That is not where you want to be right now. The dark blue line, that is your inventory count, and you can see starting on July 11th, it stopped increasing, so we are no longer building the inventory that Germany needs, and Uniper does not have the cash to buy the gas on the spot market to build up that inventory. And as always, Western leadership's solution is more bailouts and more money printing. Somebody needs to tell these guys you can't print methane molecules. Europe's energy crisis will cost you $200 billion, probably more. That is the conservative estimate that they're putting on the price of these energy bailouts that they're going to have to put in place. And one way or another, the taxpayers are going to be the ones footing the bill, either through higher energy bills, higher taxes, or through inflationary costs as the ECB just prints euros to buy an ever-decreasing supply of gas. Again, when Uniper goes into the spot market to buy the gas, this chart is what you get. So even if those bailouts happen and they enable Uniper to go start sourcing that gas on the spot market again, it's just going to drive these Dutch TTF prices even higher. And theoretically, this chart would approach infinity as those storage tanks approach zero over the course of this winter, which they are right now on pace to do if the Russians don't turn Nord Stream 1 back on. And there's even a chance the Europeans are going to have to get through this winter without U.S. LNG because keep in mind the U.S. Freeport LNG plant is still down. Federal government will not allow them to come back online until they complete the root cause analysis for the fire at that plant that happened a couple of weeks ago. That's about 20% of U.S. LNG export capacity. And the EPA, aka the Biden administration, is threatening to shut down the Sabine Pass and Corpus Christi liquefaction facilities. Those two produce 50% of U.S. LNG capacity. The EPA is threatening to shut them down over a rule change in February where some turbines that historically had not been subject to these federal emissions rules are suddenly now magically subject to these rules. So right now, the federal government here in the States has got 70% of U.S. LNG capacity potentially on ice, prohibiting those exports from coming to the rescue of Europe this winter. Also conveniently, having those units offline would suppress natural gas prices here in the States, and it would help certain politicians with their poll numbers, which are being decimated by inflation right now. Till next time, live small and dream big.